Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Box Office Buds. As you can see, we are still in our virtual world for one more episode. Hopefully, we'll be live and in color with all three of us next week. But we do need to find a new place to film these because, as we said before, Alex Alche is no longer a part of this podcast, quitting for his love of blood sport. But that's okay. We don't need him for this one because we're talking about a franchise that he is already currently out on. We are talking today about the Marvel franchise and how it looks moving forward. This is our Marvel welfare check. TJ, welcome back to the show, the producer of this show. Kellerman, as well, as always, next to me on this show. We are in a fantasy movie league. We pick these movies. We hope they do well at the box office. Whoever makes the most money in the worldwide version of it on the calendar year wins the box office league. And Kellerman, you have a big old Marvel movie coming out at the end of this July slate that is the real leader in the clubhouse when it comes to your movie team. You're hoping it does bangers. TJ, you had a Marvel movie come out already, and it was fantastic. All three of us went and saw Thunderbolts and really enjoyed ourselves, but yet it is making barely as much as Sinners made, which had no Marvel attachment to it, had no franchise attachment to it, no big stars other than the creator and the lead itself, no random characters coming in, no capes whatsoever, and yet Sinners is still making more money than Thunderbolts. So let's talk about Marvel, folks. TJ, I'm going to start with you. I think I know the answer to this, but are you disappointed in the Thunderbolts' overall box office performance?
Yeah, first of all, I'll say Thunderbolts is making slightly more than Sinners, but I'll go on to say that, you know what, the interesting part of this conversation, Tony Squares, is that I bet if you got some truth serum in the executives at Marvel, not Bob Iger, but the executives at Marvel, if you gave them the choice of Thunderbolts being a critical hit or a box office hit, I bet they would have rather had the critical hit at this point in their lineage, because I think that moving forward, they know they have the big guns in the holsters. And I think they are more worried about people trusting that the product is going to be good and that things are turning around creatively at Marvel than they are about that movie making an exorbitant amount of money. I think that coming off of the period post-pandemic, post-strike, post the changeover at Disney between the two CEOs, I think they're finally settling back into their groove creatively, and they don't have the demands of all the Disney Plus shows that they used to have once Disney Plus went live. So I think they find themselves back at a point where they can kind of really focus, and I bet they're excited that at least Thunderbolts was a hit. A lot of people were saying Marvel is back in terms of just the storytelling elements, and I think between Fantastic Four and X-Men down the line, they know they have some heavy hitters. Spider-Man, Avengers. I mean, we got the biggest of the big properties in Marvel coming in the next 12 to 16 months. So they got a critical success. People are interested. Thunderbolts is going to hit Disney Plus and do really well. All that to say, of course, I'm very disappointed that it did not crack 500 million in the box office. The fact that it looks like Captain America 4 will make more money hurts me deep to my core. And, it puts all my eggs, my dinosaur eggs, in the Jurassic Park basket. So that's all I can do. It was a great movie. Too bad we don't take critic scores into account for the point system. But yes, very disappointed.
But TJ, when you say that, again, I agree with you that the Marvel execs would be excited that it's a critical success. The ratings, the reviews, they're all very positive for Thunderbolts. But how will that, do you think that will affect Fantastic Four's box office results? Because to my knowledge, I don't believe Thunderbolts is going to hit streaming before Fantastic Four comes out. So people who haven't seen Thunderbolts, why would they be convinced that Marvel is back and Fantastic Four will be great because they won't know themselves? Kellerman, do you think Thunderbolts is giving you a leash heading into Fantastic Four, or is the stink of Captain America and the fact that not a lot of people are seeing Thunderbolts going to hurt Fantastic Four, or is a completely separate monster altogether?
Obviously, Marvel's track record, recent track record, I should say, gives me pause. But also, I think Fantastic Four has a lot of things going for it that the other two movies that came out this year didn't. I think that both Captain America and Thunderbolts, in a lot of ways, look like damage control from the fallout and changes of Kang Dynasty. And the Fantastic Four promises to be something separate, new, the beginning of the next thing that will hopefully not get bumbled. Also, it's much more of a family movie. The Fantastic Four is literally Marvel's first family, but also it just looks like more family fun. Thunderbolts, as excellent as I thought it was, very dark, very adult. Captain America, as fun as it could have been, was very dark, very adult. And this is the first Marvel movie I think in a while that looks like it may just be good family fun and the beginning of the next whatever Marvel's doing, including the return of Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom.
Well, as you said, Robert Downey Jr. is returning as Doctor Doom. Fantastic Four looks to be leading, not only if you saw the end credits in Thunderbolts, but if you've read anything online, looks to be directly leading into Avengers, Doctor Doom, the whole new world order that is coming. Going back to Brave New Order, whatever the crappy Captain America subtitle was.
It changed a bunch of times.
That Doctor Doom, Robert Downey Jr. movie that everyone's excited about with all the movie chairs and all the people coming back, that did get pushed. It is now coming out at the end of December. It is now a big question mark on what we do with it when it comes to the Fantasy Box Office League. Who drafts it and how much money do you spend on it? Because it's only going to be in theaters for 10-ish days of that Fantasy Movie League calendar. But do you think that the fact that they pushed Avengers down the line, that they've canceled a couple of standalone Marvel movies? As you said, Disney Plus is no longer making those TV shows all the time, which is a good thing because most of those TV shows were terrible. But Blade got canceled. That movie's been in the works for what seems like a decade. Now Blade is no longer happening.
What a loss. Mahershala Ali as Blade, it would have been some of the best casting since Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man.
But that's the thing, that was all, decisions were all made because of previous decisions not working out, whether movies aren't making money, whether movies aren't critical successes, whether they're putting the wrong people in charge of certain things and have to change things. Even Captain America, as we talked about in previous shows, that thing was a piece of crap and they brought in new people to change it, new stories to try and make it better, and it ended up continuing to be a piece of crap. As we said, Thunderbolts, though, was a bastion of success when it came to actual movie making and storytelling. Fantastic Four still undecided. I'm hoping against hope that it'll be perfect like I want it to be. But where is Marvel right now? Pushing Avengers, deleting Blade, deleting all these singular titles, having really toadstool after toadstool come out in the movie theaters other than Thunderbolts. TJ, I know how much you love these movies. I know how much you are a superhero fan and you love watching all of these big things happen on the screen. Are you worried about the world of Marvel where we're at?
I am a little bit. I think it's equally interesting. I know this is a conversation about Marvel, but historically, you can't have a conversation about Marvel without having a conversation about DC. And the fact that the entire rebirth of the DC is coming in the same month in Superman, it's a lot is on the line in Hollywood with these two movies being an attempt by both studios to kind of reboot and get back to a better place. Marvel never fell to the critical and commercial lows of Justice League, certainly, but they both have had rocky patches in their history, hits, misses. Obviously, Marvel has a much better record, but still, it is crazy. Marvel has had some duds that, in the first phase, if you would have, maybe even in the second phase, if you would have told them what a movie like The Marvels would have made, you would have, been laughed out of the building. There's no way that movie makes that. So I think if you talk about both of those movies coming out in the same month, I think it really forecasts a huge future of Hollywood. And of course, there's already movies being made past that. But I think, you guys know this too, being in this town, studios are tightening their budgets everywhere they can, cutting costs. And it affects every person except for the fat cat above the line people. They just have to hire less people, which we're all victim to. But it's affected this entire town. And if they see that superhero movies are no longer the guaranteed billion-dollar business that they thought, maybe it leads to a world where they're not spending $300 million on each movie and we get some smaller, more intimate movies. But they'll always keep making them. It might just adjust how they make them, in my opinion.
Yeah, it'll just be Chris Hemsworth as Thor, but AI makes it. Kellerman, Off of that, I asked the same question to you because you are as much the Marvel fanboy as TJ is, the comic book fanboy as TJ is. Are you, after seeing the state of things over the past few months and years leading to this line, Fantastic Four aside, are you worried about the state of Marvel as we enter the first weekend of June here?
No, but I'm also like the wrong person to ask this question to, honestly. I don't really believe, everyone always talks about like superhero fatigue, and I don't really believe in that. I think that, people are fatigued until a good one comes out and then they love that one. So I think that generally speaking, again, Fantastic Four just feels so separate to me. Maybe it's also because it takes place or seemingly takes place back in the 60s in a different time period. And maybe it's because it has Pedro Pascal, who I think is a draw in his own right, especially to people who are not strictly Marvel fans. And I think they're going to market the ever living crap out of this movie.
Yeah, they already are.
We've already seen some of the like IMAX integrations and those sorts of things, and that's just a taste of what's going to start happening once we get closer to it. I mean, I know Tony, you can't stop singing the Fantastic Four song from the trailer, so
The trailer hits every time. Like, I cannot stress that enough. The trailer, especially the newest one, hits every single time. When he says, like, whatever the line is, I don't know if I can keep you safe, and then the chorus comes in with the Fantastic Four, it's like, I want to be in the theater now. I'm pumped for it. I think
awesome.
TJ makes a great point, though. This is a ginormous July for both DC and Marvel, because
True.
what
That is a
putting in,
really good point, and I hadn't considered it before.
everything that you just said they're putting into Fantastic Four, DC is putting into Superman with the marketing and the whole, this is a new feel, this is a new theory. I do not love the trailer to Superman as much as the next guy, but I am still very much excited to see this next step into a whole new world of what this can be. I am pumped to see how it all plays out. I hope they both make oodles of money. I want to see more of these movies come out. I love going to the theater to see them. I think Fantastic Four, if this fails, if Fantastic Four doesn't do A, numbers, and B, isn't a good movie, I think it's a drastic difference 5 years from now with the amount of superhero movies we have coming out. I don't know where movies go if this Fantastic Four doesn't work out. I think there's that much pressure on it because Avengers is going to be Avengers. But they need to have the standalone movies matter as well to build up to said Avengers. And Fantastic Four, as you said, is the whole new world opening up here. It's a whole new step, a whole new coat of paint. And they need it to be a success. TJ, what do you think? I know Kellerman has this movie in our Fantasy Movie League. What do you think is the number that Marvel would need, that Bob Iger would need to deem Fantastic Four a success?
I mean, I think anything less than a billion would be disappointing for Marvel at this point. I think
Coming off of the
this is the
last
first
two, you think they're disappointed with $1 billion?
Yes, I agree
I
with
would
him.
think they are because I think this is the first family of Marvel. Clearly, this is the one they're putting all their chips on the table for, and I think it's the start of the new phase. It's all these characters are returning in the new Avengers movie. It's everything. It's them trying to recapture their glory, and if they can't hit what they used to routinely hit with these movies in $1 billion, what they just were able to hit with Ryan Reynolds last summer with Deadpool, then I think anything less than a billion would be a disappointment. I'm not saying it would be a disaster, certainly, but
Yeah.
if it can't make $1 billion with all they're putting behind this movie, I think that would be a disappointment.
Kellerman, you hard disagree.
I do. I just don't think while I hope it makes $1 billion and I think it has the potential to make $1 billion, that number just doesn't add up to me, especially with just what they've been doing lately. And I think about it more especially in Marvel, who puts out consistently multiple movies a year. I rely more on the trends than individual movie performances. And trend-wise, the performance of their movies have kind of been going down. And then now we've kind of like sort of bottomed around 200 to 400 million. And I think anything over 500 or 600 million looks like the beginning of a new trend upward.
Man,
Especially with Doomsday being the next movie.
I disagree completely about 500, 600 million. I get what you're talking about with the trends thing, and I do understand your angle coming after that. But with as much as they're putting into this movie, seemingly a year's worth of marketing leading up to this thing, and how much they're expecting these characters to be pivotal points in the Avengers franchise, I'm with TJ. If this doesn't hit a bill, I think people are getting their golden parachutes out of Disney. Put it that way.
I worry that it doesn't have. I worry that it doesn't have the international appeal with four white.
Fair point.
With a rich white family at the center of it.
Kellerman, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I was jealous that you got Fantastic Four. It was one of my top 3 movies on my list heading into this draft. I do think it's going to do a boatload of numbers. I am worried that, as we said, it's very much against Superman, and it's going to be an interesting time to see which one comes out on top. TJ, Superman versus Fantastic Four.
Hold on. I honestly didn't realize until TJ said it just now. Superman is also, as much as it is the beginning of something new, it is tonally a drastic departure from the last Superman movie. This one is obviously more for the family than Justice League, Man of Steel, whatever the last Superman movies we saw were. Yeah. But I think that creates a little bit more tension. We picked these movies before we saw any trailers for anything, just based on the titles, basically. Now seeing it, I think it's going to be more of a competition than I originally thought it would be.
Well, let's leave on that then. Let's have this be the last question. Kellerman, you can take part as well, leaving your bias aside on what you want to make more money. Who makes more money in the end of the day, Superman or Fantastic Four? TJ, you go first.
Well, if I was a less modest person, I would lift my shirt up and show you my BVS for life tattoo, but that's for another time. I'm going to say that I think there's more interest in what DC and Warner Brothers is doing with their entire new universe and the reboot of Superman and the brand awareness of Superman. And I think Superman also has the advantage of coming first. And I think that it's going to do better than Fantastic Four. I'm going with the Man of Steel himself, Kal-El, Superman.
That's even bigger hearkening point to whether Fantastic Four is deemed a success or not, with Superman 2 weeks ahead of it, 3 weeks ahead of it when it comes to making money. They have a direct competitor to draw the line of Fantastic Four to. Man, it's a big deal, this movie. They need this to be a success. Kellerman, I'm going to take Fantastic Four, though, because I think it really matters this much. Yeah, and you made a great point about the international appeal to it. I will say domestically, Fantastic Four beats out Superman. That's what I will hang my hat on. If it ends up being beaten overall because of the international thing, I'm fine with that. But domestically, I think Fantastic Four beats out Superman. What's your pick, Kellerman?
I gotta be honest. I thought this back. Superman was my number 1 pick, and I didn't get it. Cheese did. And I still stand by it. I think Superman makes the most money of any movie this year. I hope Fantastic Four performs well. I think Fantastic Four will perform well enough to put me back in the lead. But I would have to go with Superman if I had to choose between the two.
Well, we shall see.
And I will say it is specifically based on that international. I think that Superman is a more internationally recognizable name than Fantastic Four.
Well, it's not an internationally recognizable name, The Ballerina, but that is the movie coming out this week. We've already given our preview for that show. We've already talked about the week's worth of movies, and we will be back next week to talk about the results of Ballerina and everything else in the Fantasy Movie League. Again, thank you for watching the virtual aspect of this. Alche, wherever you are, hope you're doing well. Can't wait to hopefully see you in the future, maybe at a kid's birthday party or something, because we know it won't be on this podcast. Thank you guys for joining in, and like, subscribe, help the channel grow, help us make more of these. We're excited to see it, and we'll see you next week when we're talking about How to Train Your Dragon.